Hi, welcome back to my studio practice. And today we're learning from Rousseau. This is my third studio session, and we're going to begin to tackle the sky. Now, if we have a look at this image here, we can see that the sky includes a portion in the upper third, possibly the upper quarter of the image. And so when we go to the demo class, when I look at the board that I've prepared, I now feel that the upper third that I mapped out on a previous installment of my studio practice now feels a little bit too much. So we can correct that as we go along. Certainly, if we go back, we can see that the lower drop of the blue, do you see the pale blue from the moon down to the, not the zenith, but the opposite of it, the nadir. The lowest point is near the center of the canvas, and it is approaching the lower third marking. And so if we check our panel over here, back to the demo class, okay, it's about center, which is about here, and roughly about the third. But then it scoops up slightly more on this side, slightly less on this side, but I am being inspired by Rousseau, so I feel that I can adapt what we're doing. Okay, back to the original image. If we look at the dream, you can see that on the upper right hand side and the upper left hand side, the darkness of the foliage, the darkness of this imagined or psychological jungle tips upward to either side in a banana boat, in a kind of melon slice, in a kind of partial semicircle. And so again, if we look at the board that we have prepared, we would be scooping out a section here down to here. And on his version, he has a moon here. But I've seen other works which include a very, very red or orangey red sun. So let's begin. Let's have a look at the palette to see what colours we're using. A really good blue for sky is cerulean blue. Now it's spelled a variety of ways. In this way, C-E-R-U-L-E-A-N, cerulean blue is a lovely blue for mixing skies, and most of my live streams so far have included it. So this blue is ideal. But what are we going to lighten it with? Giving you a chance to have a think. That's right, we have to use titanium white. Probably in a kind of 50-50 mix. So we've used cerulean blue and titanium white. Okay, there we go. Now, it's possible that the blue can be dirtied either with raw sienna or burnt umber. Now, burnt umber of the two umbers is slightly warmer and might be nice to go with the sky, but my own tendency is towards this here, which is raw sienna. I believe that a small amount of this might be ideal to knock back the potency and the strength of the cerulean blue and titanium white mix. So I'm going to plot out a little bit of this as well, so you can see the colours that are building up. We have cerulean blue, hue, not the actual pigment, but a synthetic copy. Titanium white, a very strong white. Not ideal, we prefer mixing white. And we have raw sienna. And with it another earth colour, a little bit of burnt umber. So we're going to mix up a blue sky mix. And the idea is to make a little scoop out of the upper portion here. And that's all that we want to achieve today. However, I have a canvas left over from April that I wish to attempt. And so it'll be interesting to attempt to do something with that. I have a cheap brush. It's called a Daler Rowney number 10 flat shader. And I'm just using water, knowing that when I mix with water, the water is going to evaporate quickly. And I want speedy results for this section. I don't want to be hanging around. So, a bit more water. We're at the very lean stage of the painting. So I'm mixing up a mix which is akin to probably semi-skimmed milk, for those of you that paint in gouache. And then I'm going to drag in some of my titanium white. Now, ideally for mixing colours, zinc white would be preferable. Okay, but that's my mix, probably about half and half, I would say, just judging it by eye. I'm noticing that the white addition is having a greying effect. Now it's possible that some of the other colours on the palette are having an influence, but I've tried to keep them over to this area. I've tried to keep them separated from everything that's going on. And what happens when we introduce raw sienna? So if we bring in a little bit of raw sienna, and we get this kind of greyed mix, nudging green. Okay, that's alright. And what happens when we bring in burnt umber? We have a kind of darker grey. What we don't have is a pure kind of unsaturated mix. So pulling a little bit more blue in and leaning towards the raw sienna. We're ready to paint. So let's move from palette cam over to the demo class. We'll switch things around a little bit. And we'll see that what we're trying to do is to create a kind of scoop which has this as its lowest point and reaches up to about here on either side. Now, as well as that, taking my 10p coin, here is the line that suggests the third. If I move across here a little bit, I'm in the neighbourhood of this third, And if I go low towards the horizon, I can map out an area for a descending sun. But also, because we're being inspired by a dream, anything can happen in your dream. So while I've listened to the research and heard explanations about why, the work is a dream, it's a dreamlike thing because anything can happen within your dreams. And so the rules of law and physics and nature don't apply. Which I take to mean I can have a moon and the sun in the same sky. Roughly mirroring each other on the vertical thirds. 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. So they are in the vicinity of those thirds. And now I just want to scumble. Scumbling means if I drag the brush across, I can do it in such a way that some of the undercolor, the color underneath, shows through. So, scumbling typically allows the lower colors to show through. There we go. I can see roughly the area that's going to be defined by blue sky. At this moment, the blue is so transparent that a lot of orange is coming through. The orange also, in my opinion, is offering a kind of dirtying effect. Let's say if we put on just strong white, strong blue, bloop, it doesn't have a lot of character to it, it's kind of flat. Whereas if we scumble it and drag it out, then the personality of the colour and the other colours underneath work in combination. And so I would say that the scumbling is maybe it's a good idea to allow the influencing effects of the underlying colour to shape the artwork. I'm going to go across here a little bit and create a shallower curve to the nadir, the low point, rather than the zenith. So that there is going to be my low point. Okay. Now you can see that there's a semicircle there. And the scumbling is allowing the orange to come through. Orange is the complementary colour to blue, and so I thought it would have a greying effect on the blue. I don't want to have a very strong blue. I want to have a very modulated blue. Now, we did a little bit of research together, but I think it's important to look at more of Rousseau's skies. So you can see that, let's lift out a bit of material, that he does have some orangey skies, like so. And so he has a very kind of orangey sun. And a very white moon. What he doesn't have is a completely flat and bland solid blue. It'd be very easy to go in with a very opaque blue and just cover everything up. But I'm not sure that I want that. I think I prefer the kind of modulated colours that are happening. Okay. Now I'm going to let that just sit a while, and that includes my appreciation of it. I'm maybe just going to let that just sit and cure. And I'm going to show you, if we go over to palette cam, let's over the palette, let's zoom in. 3, 2, 1, there we go. We're going to look at black. Now I have made up black from French ultramarine blue and either of the umbers. With raw umber you get a very cool mix, a very cool blue. And with burnt umber you can mix it with black, carbon black like this, and achieve, depending on the ratio, a very Mars black, which is a very brown black that you can see in the catalogues. So when I made up my mix and compared it with what comes straight out of the tube, I'll have to be honest with you and say that I didn't notice any significant difference. And since I have got a whole tube of this in my mix, then I am inclined to just use it up and replenish my stock as and when I need it. Water is my medium. I want this to dry fairly quickly. I've noticed that black portions before haven't dried so well. So what I'd like to do is just try and encourage the black to dry more speedily. Okay, so there we are. The dark of the jungle material is now encompassing the moon and the sun area. So the sun area here. What I'd like to do is make it a little bit more organic, in keeping with the jungle subject. So I want to have an irregular edge. The last thing I want to have is a completely flat edge, like it's been drawn with a ruler. So even with the black coming, filling in this area, you can see that the orange showing through influences it and makes it a lot more interesting and lively than just straight black. A more solid, more opaque mix. I'm going to bring more pigment in though. Okay. Now even within that area, it suggests that with all the kind of modulations within the black, that something is going on within the black. And if you remember our research, Rousseau painted very large canvases. Now, fairly recently, I painted quite large, but unfortunately, working as a support worker for vulnerable adults, I was assaulted and my right hand damaged, my dominant hand damaged, and so I no longer paint the very large canvases that I was doing. I was used to painting canvases that were 3 meters square. So now I'm just beginning to get back to painting, and painting on these size canvas boards. Okay, that's that. Is rewarding. It's rewarding to be back at painting. Let's go. But I'm doing this in full knowledge that later on what's going to happen is we're going to break up this outline with other kind of shapes. Which will appear backlit on this surface. Okay, so there's a bit of a glow. I am fairly happy with what's going on. And this brush is doing its duty. So that's fine. We certainly have the shape, and the shape is indicating a moon coming up and a sun going down. I'm kind of favouring the sun at the moment. So let's go back in with a flat brush. This is a Rosemary & Co. Ivory short flat brush. And I can't see for the life of me. Yep, there we are. It's a size 1. Okay. And we're going to use this to pull out the white of the moon. Not going to be a pure white. Let's move over onto the palette camera. Here we go. Okay. We can see that we have a white, slightly modulated by the sky colour. But that's no bad thing, because you want to have something that is if you use pure white for something like a moon like this, where do you go to for accents? But again, I don't want to fully block it in. I want the kind of scumbling or the scumbling quality to allow the other layers to shine through or to peep through. So I'm kind of keen not to flatten everything out with an opaque layer. Okay. I now feel that this Rosemary & Co., and I'm not sponsored by them, Rosemary & Co. Tree and Texture brush, it's a series 32 and it's 3/8 of an inch, will be needed to reinstate the blue. And I'm doing it in a kind of circular motion. I just want to build up the intensity of the blue, which contains the raw umber. The burnt umber was too grey. for me. But there's a warmth in the orange underpainting, which is fairly welcome. It's quite a nice addition. It creates, at the moment, it appears to create a bit of a glow. And so that's a nice touch. There. It's a Scumbling. Brush at a low angle, kind of scrubbing on at times in a kind of circular motion. Trying to bring in the blue pigment on top of the orange. There we go. Oop. A little bit too much light there, so we'll have to blend that in. We'll just have to treat it as a light patch in the sky. There we go. Some carbon black got in the mix. That's fine. We can live with that. And so we have a sky which is blue. It has the character of blue, but it has this kind of glowing orange kind of influence. And it has been dulled somewhat with the addition of let's see what happens when we introduce some raw umber. There's a slight dulling effect on it. But I have looked at the sky before and I have seen that the sky is green. So have a look and prove to yourself what you yourself can see. I have seen skies which I would be convinced were actually green in character. Okay. That's fine. I have a largely blue sky. Oh, let's go back to the demo class. I have a largely blue sky, which, dabbing now, has a warmth to it from the orange underpainting, but also is greyed by the addition of raw sienna. So those people that know about painting with watercolour, raw sienna is often used in skies to just modulate the clouds and the colour of the sky. So it gave me the inspiration to kind of create this sky here. We have a moon and an orangey sun, and we also have a foliage background that is warmed by the sky. But also alludes to the fact that there is life within the kind of foliage. Something else is going on and is not completely dark. Some things may be detected within this space. I am tempted to introduce a little bit of blue into the moon to give some kind of additional character there. And dragging some of the material into the space that we had blocked in. for variety's sake. Also to clean the brushes out. A bit of a glow there. So that'll help make it a little bit more interesting. Better than just flat. Some blue introduced into the moon area. That's fine. Create something a little bit more visually interesting and homogeneous in character. I've made a decision now to introduce a little bit more red. If you can see the palette cam, I'll call that up now. There we go, palette cam. And if I bring a little bit of the raw sienna into the red, perhaps a little bit more. We want to create an orange, a very orangey red. Can we do that? Yeah. It's a dulled and much more puttied version of the orange that's going on. But I need to introduce it now. Again, I don't want to cover all the material. I want there to be a liveliness within it. But if you go back and look at some of the artwork of Rousseau, you will see this lovely orangey red sky, this orangey red sun, which you can see here, this orangey red. If I can bring some more red into it on one side, yep, there we go. And that creates some more kind of visual interest. Also suggests the form. That's it. I am fairly happy with that. That's it for the Rousseau painting today. We have the sky, which is a blue. It's been dulled somewhat by the addition of raw sienna, but also it's been warmed a little by the orangey underpainting, which is coming through because we use the technique of scumbling. The inverted apex, which we call the nadir, is almost dead center, but this space will allow us to encroach upon it with foliage forms and also suggest and remind ourselves where the thirds are. We can break up some of these shapes a little bit. Okay, and that will be our next steps. That's it for this work. We have another work. We have the Quetzal work from April, and so we've got some of this blue mixed up. So let's move over to the palette cam again and bring that in. Here we go. Blue, which is cerulean blue hue, and titanium white. I've been watching some finger painting artists lately, and I've been alarmed to see them mixing this paint just with an ungloved hand. And titanium is a heavy metal and fairly toxic compound. A little bit of water. In future, I would like to, as we move back to the demo class, in future I would like to mix my colours using, that's a little bit too light, so introduce a little bit more blue and also a touch of that. There we go, a touch of the raw sienna. So we need a bluer colour to map out where the sky would be. Now, no sky is uniformly one colour, so looking at the sky, I'm sure you will detect a variety of different colours, and of course influenced also by the fact that there's clouds in the sky and various bits and bobs going on. Also, how we perceive it is influenced by dust particles in it, in the sky, so that can change the overall perception. What I'd like to do here is bring the sky down a little bit on this side here, but also I want to respect the outline of the palette. Yeah, I was saying payday. I want to be able to mix my colours using palette knives, small palette knives. So, because I think there's a bit of wear and tear on the brushes, which is being encouraged by the use of mixing the paints with a brush creates wear and tear on the brush, and so I think if we have mixing knives, then that's going to be beneficial, because there's a bit of wear and tear on my brushes, and I've only been painting with them for slightly over a month. So by mapping in the sky, I'm able to correct the shape of the palette. There we go. But I also know that as this piece develops, the bird is going to be holding something in its mouth which is going to move into this area. So while this is sort of non-eventful at the moment, there's not a lot going on in this space. I know that some visual interest is going to be created there by the addition of some kind of feature that the bird is holding in its beak. White. Because the sky needs clouds. That's a little bit too white. So wipe that off a little bit. And now that the brush is slightly cleaner, Just blend with kind of circular motion. And this will help suggest the shape of the mandala disc. So a little bit dissatisfied, so I'll bring in some blue. Nope, a little bit stronger blue than that. And hopefully transition it a little bit better. Over here, up to the palette. So again, we've got the juxtaposition of man-made and organic forms. Let's bring a little bit more white in there, so give the clouds a little bit more definition. Yeah, that's better. And let's cast the shadow area. A warm shadow by the addition of the raw umber that we were using in the other painting. So it creates a kind of warm glow to the clouds. That's fine. We had a black. We had made up a black. Now that with some of the raw umber should create an olive, a variety of olive. Which would be nice here. Okay. An ideal olive would be carbon black mixed with yellow ochre. So that's there. And I feel that that is needed there to make the contour there of the wheat field a little bit more defined. So, do I want the trees to continue? Because here we have the clouds behind the Costa Rican flag here. Do I want something similar here? I'm curious. Maybe. Again, it's this issue of the juxtaposition of organic and man-made forms. Here. So let's go in with the dark stuff. Bring in some shadow area. And I now realise I really need my olive. So we'll let that dry. And we'll bring in some olive into that area. Let's lift out that little section. And the flagpole is slightly obscured. Okay. We'll try again with a little bit more of the colours. Well, it's approaching the base colour that was used to stain the surface. But it's by no means an equivalent. So, but it's there. Okay. I think that's it. I think that's it for today. Let's see, is there any more blue work needed? Let's see, perhaps on the eyeball here. Let's get back to the drawing. So I use the back of my paintbrush for kind of scraping back when I think an idea needs to be corrected. But you can get colour shapers. And so again, that's another thing that we'll have to wait till next again payday. It would be nice to be able to purchase all the paints and brushes and things that you think that you need. But that's okay. Thank you so much. Let's summarize. We made a pale blue and scumbled it on the orange underpainting to create a modulated blue. And we dirtied it a little bit with raw sienna because when we mixed it on the palette, the burnt umber was just too grey, too dirty. At least by scumbling, we have a little bit of the original orange colour influencing it, warming the sky, but also this kind of orange being the complement to blue helps grey it out and helps give some of the desaturating effect that we wanted. The scoop comes to the centre of the panel, which is inspired by Rousseau's work. But so is this orange sun, and because it's a dream theme, you can have contradictory things going on because it's a dream. It doesn't have to apply to the normal laws of physics or what we expect. So we've got a moon, a full moon, and a sun in the same sky. And so, since we had mixed up those blues, we went back to April's project, the Quetzal, which was a last minute project, and we brought in some of the blue from the Rousseau sky into our sky using cerulean blue, titanium white, and greying a little bit with raw sienna. And then we made an olive using carbon black and raw sienna, but it didn't match the olive. And so we will come back and treat this with olive. Even though there's a detail in the bird's beak which is going to encroach upon that area there. So, sky, background foliage, corrected the eyeball a little bit, and we're well on with the Rousseau painting. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found it interesting and you learned something that was useful for your own art. I hope that you at least feel inspired to be creative wherever you are. and I look forward to seeing you in the next installment. So, thank you for watching. Bye-bye. See you soon.